Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at Phil's spurg out on FIghtcade and VPNs, etc., etc. What we're going to go into today is basically just looking at what Phil had to say. We're going to debunk everything that Phil had to say, like usual, right? We're going to be looking at a couple games, bring that up here really quick, that I did tests with for both VPN on and off, Call of Duty, FIghtcade, Street Fighter 6, and World of Warcraft. As you can see here, I've got VPN on and off. We'll take a look at that when we get to that. But what I want to just jump into is the video here by Memology. Thanks to Memology here for having this video so I don't have to go around and look for anything. We're basically going to look at the spurg out that occurred on Tuesday morning when Phil was doing the podcast and blamed his viewers for not telling him. Shocker, Phil actually knew about this issue. If you go back to December on my channel, you'll find a video when Phil was first initially supposed to play FIghtcade, which is during the Christmas marathon, and Phil refused to do it then because it was too difficult to set up. So I did a video showing how easy it actually is to get FIghtcade up and running. Now, with that, Phil knew about the IP address issue back then because people had messaged him and told him in his chat. So this whole thing about the IP getting leaked is a moot point because the fact that Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, Tekken 8, King of Fighters, Guilty Gear, Helldivers, Elden Ring, all those games use peer-to-peer setups, right? So at any point, anybody can get Phil's IP address, and that is where a VPN comes in. But Phil says VPNs cause lag. Well, actually, we can disprove that because in the game tests here, we will actually show that it actually can lower your latency when configured correctly. But we'll get into that when we get into that. Let's first look at this video here, and we'll just start debunking and reacting to Phil's video. Now, before we do that, should have hit this up first. On the right-hand side, you can see here, I have some text overlaid over top of the VPN. Now, I want this here because we're going to look at a portion of another video from 2 Fridays ago when Phil was playing Street Fighter 6. And it's really going to tell you how Phil sees how latency actually works. And of course it's wrong. And Phil is probably going to catch a lot of flack over this from FGC members if they watch this video and see what Phil has to say. So let's just go over this really quick. Visual stimulus reaction time. This is the average reaction time for a human being is 250 milliseconds. 1 frame equals 16 milliseconds, and 1 second is equivalent to 1,000 milliseconds. So it gives you a gist of, reaction time for when you're playing a fighting game. The main thing to look at, and we're going to get more into this when I do the video debunking more into like PC cheating and how Phil sees like how people are able to adjust their settings on their PC to get faster reaction time on PC itself. Shocker, that's not really real in a fighting game. In first-person shooters, yeah, you can lower your input latency by a couple milliseconds, but it really is not going to matter all that much. So let's just jump into this video really quick.
Last time I had financial freedom was probably 2014 when I moved out here. That was the end of it. Seriously, like 2014. Since then, obviously a lot has changed. Okay? And in reality, everyone has these different skewed histories of Street Fighter depending on who you were friends with and who you knew and where you lived. And my history of Street Fighter is just very different than everyone else's because I lived on the East Coast. I wasn't friendly with the people who ran Shoryuken.com and the people who ran Evo. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. I was kind of at odds with them a lot.
Okay, let's just cover this really quick. So, Phil living on the East Coast has nothing to do with playing Street Fighter. Phil competed in tournaments all over North America, right? And the only tournament that we know where he placed relatively high in, outside of, say, like a qualifier, was either that pawn shop Tekken trophy that he won, that his dad probably had made for him or whatever, right? We can't corroborate that. That's just Phil's word for it, and we know Phil's word is completely worthless. The other one is that Evo in 2005 where Phil placed 4th place, and Phil claims he's #1 in North America, even though the tournament was massively boycotted because they were using a shit conversion of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So a lot of people that probably could have beaten Phil very easily ended up just not playing because nobody wanted to compete in that shitty tournament. So that's as much as we know for Phil's competition history in fighting games back in the day. Now, Phil being hated by Shoryuken.com, well, that's for many reasons. One reason was Phil would, whenever somebody would be doing something positive on there, Phil would go on there and just spread misinformation and be negative about it. And that basically, if you know the history between Phil and the Cannon brothers, that's 100% true, right? Phil was very jealous of the Cannon brothers being able, well, for one, being a lot smarter than Phil is and making money off the GGPO slash rollback netcode. As well, they should have, Phil. They designed a wicked netcode for fighting games that is still used to this day, which is the best option that we have, right? Phil doesn't like it. Phil thinks that GGPO slash rollback netcode is horrible. The reason why GGPO slash rollback netcode exists is for basically it's to level the playing field with people with slower connections, right? Somebody like Phil, we all know Phil's internet is really, really slow. We'll get into that a little bit later here. We all know Phil has slow internet, right? And we've debunked this for years that Phil has his whole entire setup is really, really bad. So GGPO netcode, rollback netcode, is actually beneficial for somebody like Phil who is not very good at fighting games, right? And that's not to say like Phil's pretty much average. I haven't looked at Phil's Street Fighter 6 record from Friday night. If he's dropped below 50%, well, then he's a scrub now to me, right? He's no longer an average player. He's below 50% win rate. He's a scrub player, right? I haven't checked it yet. I'll do that later here before we get bingo going. But yeah, like for somebody like Phil, rollback netcode is beneficial. Phil will use every excuse in the book to basically tell his viewers why he's losing in Street Fighter or any fighting game for that matter, right? And we all know is that Phil he's not bad, but he's not very good either.
Because I felt that they had a lot of things that they were running that weren't very kosher, a lot of very questionable practices at their tournaments, and all kinds of stuff, okay? So, the reason we're talking about this is because this all ties into FIghtcade, okay? If you don't know, FIghtcade, all right? And by the way, Jughead Jones, you're absolutely wrong. The posts are not archived there because they were deleted from the site. What you're talking about are unrelated posts, not to the subject, so get banned, you fuckface. Because everything I'm talking about was in IRC chats and shit. These conversations I had, they can't be archived from SR.
So, basically what's being discussed here is the Wayback Machine, right? Some of Phil's posts are actually archived on the Wayback Machine. If you actually want to take a look at them, I suggest taking a look at WPIG, hosted by Altinsider. Alt has a lot of the lore from back in the day, and you'll see Phil like sexually harassing women on the forums. You'll see Phil outright attacking the Cannon brothers on the forums. There is a lot to go over. There's a lot of this stuff that's archived. The IRC chats, of course, yes, they're not going to be archived. And again, we have to take Phil's word for it. And Phil's a pathological liar, and we know his word is worthless, right? So each to their
Okay,
own.
you dunce. Fucking moron detractor in my chat, trying to hide out, pretending like he's not.
Ha! You can run, but you can't hide.
I love it. Oh, everything Phil ever said has been archived. Wrong. Wrong. All the deleted posts are gone. So you would never find my posts about this because they were deleted. The ones that you'll see were the ones that were allowed to be posted. They were selective in what they allowed to be on the site. And no, the private conversations that I had with the people behind the scenes are not archived. You're a moron.
Look at how his right leg is just twitching like crazy. He's so nervous and he's so stressed out because of his lying that he can't control himself, right? His leg is just twitching. Look.
Oh my God. What a fucking idiot. So, I need to know tonight when we're doing a live setup of this, how it works, how to prevent the trolling. Before I boot a single match, I need to have this set up so we're not going to have pop-ups constantly with people inviting spam. We're not going to have people getting my IP and trying to knock my streams offline. You know, this all has to be figured out before I fuck.
So let's discuss this here really quick. Because FIghtcade uses what's called peer-to-peer, and all peer-to-peer means is, let's say that I am playing Street Fighter 6, okay? I'm player 1. That means I am going to host the match, because Street Fighter 6 is peer-to-peer, just like FIghtcade is. So let's say I'm playing against Piece of Peace, right? Piece of Peace finds me. I'm player 1. That means I am the host. Piece of Peace then has to connect to my PC to play the game, right? Now, we have to exchange IP information, right? An IP is your digital footprint. This is how you're identified on the internet. And it doesn't matter if you're on a gaming console, a PC, a phone. Even things like a washer and dryer or a fridge that connects to your Wi-Fi in your home, those will all have IP addresses. Those will also all have MAC IDs, right? Now, MAC IDs are a lot worse. If you leak your MAC ID, it's a lot worse than leaking your IP address, because if you switch service providers, let's do a scenario here. If dipshit Phil here switches off Comcast, right? Now, we know back in October 2023, October, November, there was the hackening, right? If everybody remembers that, right? Where Phil accused a Comcast employee of basically turning his internet on and off. Now, we did a whole hoopla on that. The videos are on my site. You can take a look, or on my channel. You can take a look at them here. The Kiwis are 100% sure Dan Green was fake. He was using software that was over 10 years old that Comcast got rid of 10 years ago. The modems that were showing up on Phil's account supposedly don't match modems that Comcast gives out to its business clients or its home clients. And Phil had leaked his MAC IDs and his IP addresses. Now, trust me, people tried to attack Phil with this, and yes, there are bad detractors out there that will do illegal things, right? Like, and that is one of the rules that the detractor community has, is don't touch the poo, right? That means don't do anything illegal, don't give Phil money. Just, if you want to troll him in chat and stuff like that, or stream snipe him in games, by all means, that stuff's funny, right? But don't do anything that is illegal. But there are some bad apples out there that will do stuff that's illegal, right? Like Boof did with the bank leaks. Yes, that was illegal, but it happened, so I'm going to sit back and I'm going to laugh, right? But again, don't touch the poo. So with that, Phil leaking his MAC IDs, if Phil were to switch off Comcast and switch over to AT&T, I can easily still track Phil by using that MAC ID. Right? That is how that is done, Phil. Like, leaking your IP address is nothing. You have a static IP through Comcast, okay? You can change it out within 15 minutes. You like to say it takes days. No, it doesn't. It takes like 15 minutes. All you have to do is call Comcast and go, my IP was leaked out there, can I get a new static IP? And they'll swap you out really quick. It takes about 15 minutes, requires a power cycle of your modem, and then you're good to go. Now, it could be faster if you were using a Comcast provided modem, which Phil isn't anymore. Phil's using a Netgear CM1200. But they would just give you that over the phone, and you would enter it into your modem itself, into the corresponding points. Now, that is how that's all done. Phil has absolutely no idea, right? Some dent disputes something, and Phil's running with it. That's basically how this is going.
Fuck around with this thing. They're not gonna fix that, I guess, huh? Is this the same person? Here. Look, it's just gonna keep popping up, see? Alright. It's not as simple as, oh, I'm just a Joe Nobody, no one cares, so I can just download it and use it. No. You know that I'm a target. So everyone who's asked me for 10 years to use FIghtcade, I hope you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Phil's not necessarily a target. Like I said, yes, there are some bad apples out there, but being a target is mostly Phil's fault, right? From scamming people online to constantly lying, refusal to get a job, having no morals, no ethics, stealing from his family, the way he treated Leanna, the way he treats Kat. Phil's a scumbag. He's a worthless human being, right? Who is unemployable, who has no friends, his family doesn't give a shit about him. So, like, that's your fault, Phil. That's not nobody's fault but your own.
Like, whoa. Because, yeah, it's a major concern for me that something like this could happen, okay? I hope it doesn't. I hope legit this is not an issue, and that we will get it working. So, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How do I fix this, or how do I make it so that's not going to be a concern, right? I don't know. Does anyone even know? You can block in-game chat and all that stuff. Well, that's what I need to do.
So, yes, you can. Let's bring up FIghtcade here really quick. So, here's the FIghtcade menu. I'm in the Street Fighter 6, or Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Am I? No, I'm in Grandmaster. Okay. So, looking at this portion here, we can see what the menu looks like. Sorry, I had to sneeze there for a second. So let's bring up the menu. Right now I'm set to away. That means that nobody can challenge me. So when I'm set to away, I end up in this option here. So not available, right? These are the people that are currently playing, and these are the people that are available to fight against. So if I bring up this menu here, this is your settings menu for FIghtcade, right? This is how you adjust all your settings. So right now I have it set to rank play. I've got smooth input lag, prevent low quality connections, and prevent Wi-Fi and VPN challenges. Now, this is a old wives' tale, and I am going to go in. I'm going to do another video here in the future that's basically going to go over Wi-Fi settings. Wi-Fi and VPN. Back in the day, yes, Wi-Fi and VPN were pretty bad when it came to performance. Fast forward to 2024, that is no longer true, right? And we're actually going to show you that here in a game with the VPN on versus a VPN off. And you'll actually see that the VPN performs better, or the game actually has a lower latency with the VPN on. And that's basically has to come down to configuration, right? On how you configure your VPN, where you're connecting to. Like, you're not going to be in North America region, but you're going to set it to Norway, right? Phil said that. Well, actually, look what happens if you do set it to Norway, right? You wouldn't do that, right? You're going to want to either set one, if you're playing a game like World of Warcraft that uses a centralized server, right? And that means that you have to connect to that server to play your game. I live up in Edmonton, Alberta, right? Everybody knows that. My central server, because I'm on a West Coast server, there's actually 2 servers for Activision, or provided by Blizzard Activision, for World of Warcraft North America. One is in Los Angeles, the other is in Chicago. That is for the East Coast, and this is for West Coast. And then everybody in Central will basically team off depending on where you're connecting to, right? Now, unfortunately, Edmonton, Alberta, we only have 3 VPN hubs within Canada. One is in Vancouver, one is in Toronto, and one is in Montreal, right? So those are the only 3 options that we have here in North America to connect to a VPN. Now, I wouldn't connect to Vancouver. I'm going to connect to Los Angeles because I know my server is located in Los Angeles. That's where I'm going to want to play. If you're playing Street Fighter 6 and you're wanting to fight against Phil, like say Phil's doing a casual night or he's doing a ranked night and you're in the same ranking system that Phil is, your best bet would be able to, like say you live in Denver, okay? You would set it to Denver, or you could set it to Seattle, right? Because Phil lives in a major hub for Nord and Express, his best bet is just to connect to Seattle. He would have virtually no... It may even lower his latency. Now, the VPNs for Nord and Express are hosted by Comcast in Seattle. So Phil would be on the same routing system. So he would not get any type of performance penalty when it came to latency whatsoever, right? That'd be fine. Now, if I turn out and mute chat, the issue is I can no longer accept any matches, right? So say you go in there and you see Phil here, right? And you right click and you choose challenge. Unfortunately, Phil won't see that because his chat is muted. Phil would have to manually challenge people himself. That would be the only way he could play, right? And I know that sucks. Phil's other option is to just do what he did in the Street Fighter 6 beta, which is just black out his screen or hook up a secondary monitor to that mini PC. It has 2 HDMI ports. It technically can support up to 3 displays, depending on the version that you got. The Big Dick version has an HDMI port, a display port, and plus a USB-C port that supports video as well. So you could have 3 screens attached to that PC. He can have FIghtcade chat on one with the FIghtcade game on the other, right? And then if people were bitching at him in chat and calling him Gutty or a Gouty Pig Roach, so be it. His viewers aren't going to see that, right? So he can play FIghtcade just fine. But that's what happens if you disable chat, which is not recommended. I wouldn't do it. I would make sure that chat was unmuted. And that way you can see everybody playing. Let's go over to the Street Fighter Third Strike. So you can see there's a lot of people in here. 102 looking to play. 126 actually playing. And they have 404 that are away. So a big freaking lobby, right?
Well, I guess what people were saying is that when you first boot it up, everything's on, obviously, but then you could turn off the ability for someone to send you an invite. The problem is that means that I have to always go to other people and invite them to matches. There is no matchmaking in this. It's just going to be a listing of people who want to play. You have to pick who you want to play, and they have to accept, and then you play, right? So, I don't know. We have to see how it works. And if it doesn't work, if it ends up being a fucking mess, then I guess it's a fucking...
he just explains on how to work, and then he says, then we'll have to see how it works. But you already know how it works, Phil. Like, this is why it tells me that he's probably played on FIghtcade before, and he probably got bodied, and that's why he doesn't want to play.
Mess, and we just don't do it. And for those, why don't you set it up offline? Because I'm an idiot. Like, I openly admit it now. What the fuck are you talking about? How am I going to do that? Literally, the issues cannot be figured out until we're doing it live. Right?
How can the issues not be figured out? It's simple, Phil, right? Install the game, go into a menu, go, hello, I'm Phil Burnell, and see if people talk to you, right? You could disable your chat. You could even get an idiot like Jade to come in and help you set this up, Phil. Right? You can set this up offline. I did it within 1 minute of the morning that you were supposed to be playing FIghtcade that evening. I had everything set up. I had everything ready to go. And then Phil, of course, did what he did.
Right? Like, if I play it offline, no one will know I'm doing it offline. So how would I know how I'm going to handle trolling? It would be the moment I turn it online that people start trolling me that we could figure out the fixes. Not offline. It doesn't even make sense. The same thing people say about, oh, well, why weren't you ready for this when you did your multiplayer session? Because I wasn't fucking playing on stream. So I didn't have anyone trying to troll me. How could I have prepared for it when I didn't know how it was going to work? How would we have known that in Street Fighter 6 there's constant invite pop-ups? How would you know that unless you were playing it and people were trolling you live on a stream? You would never know that. People just think the world is fucking perfect and everything can be perfectly prevented or planned for. Or no, it's not. That's not reality. And if
this situation, Phil, yeah, you can. Like, I've got my VPN on. I have my firewalls configured. My virus scan is up to date. My Windows security is all up to date. I can play FIghtcade without getting hacked, right? That's not to say that even without a VPN, like, I've played FIghtcade for years. I've never been hacked on FIghtcade.
If you think that, you probably live an insanely insulated fucking life where your mom probably does everything for you, so you don't realize that things actually happen that you have to fix on the fly.
Funny story, right? Funny story from Phil, but living an insulated life. This is coming from a hermit that doesn't have any friends, no communication with the outside world besides his YouTube stream chat. Only leaves the house once a week to go for supplies, like it's some kind of quest, like in Fallout, which he's now playing again, which is just fucking horrible. When Phil lived in Connecticut, when Phil let this slip, right? Phil was actually offered a scholarship to Boston Community College. And Phil didn't take it, right? Instead, Phil ended up at Fairfield Community College, basically because his mummy had to do his laundry for him and everything. He would take his laundry home to his mummy for her to do every week, right? And that's basically Phil, right? Phil is self-projecting here, like usual, right? You get this during every podcast.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, over-the-top nonsense. Where your mom probably does everything for you. Oh my god. Like, when people say shit to me like that, like, oh, you could have just easily prevented every problem early. It's like, no, you can't. That's not life.
Yes, you could have. You could have installed a VPN. You could have made sure your virus scan and your firewall was configured, right? You could have went in. You could have done some test games to set up your video settings and your controller settings. Did you do any of that, Phil? No, you didn't. You're waiting till the last minute because you don't know how to do it, and you're looking for somebody to walk you through it. Then you can turn around and blame them when it doesn't work.
Life. You're crazy if you think that, okay? I want to play FIghtcade. I want to play old school Street Fighter, all right? But I have to get it working properly, and it's going to take time. This is not going to be tonight. I boot up the stream, and we have 5 minutes, and now it's working. I get the feeling it's going to be...
That's literally what it took me, Phil, the morning of. Like, it took me a minute to install FIghtcade, the FC-JSON ROM, set up 3 games that you were probably going to play: Street Fighter 2, X Grandmaster, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I removed. I was playing Alien vs. Predator on Friday night. Yeah, set up all my controls, set up all my video settings, and it was good to go. Phil, on the other hand, yeah, no, that's impossible. You can't do that.
A rough setup. We gotta, it has to be installed right now. With this keyboard and mouse setup, the keyboard and mouse are way the fuck over there. Like, way over there. So I can't reach them. I'd have to figure out how to get stuff to reach over here and use it realistically.
So Phil right now is sitting about 3 to 4 feet away from his TV screen. That's about it. Between 2 and 4 feet. There's actually a technology, Phil, called wireless, and I don't know if you know about this, but this allows you to use a wireless keyboard and mouse attached to your computer, and that way you don't have to sit very close to your computer in order to use your keyboard and mouse. Like this technology, this technology is relatively new. If you people don't know about it, that's all right.
Maybe the mouse would reach, but I don't know about the keyboard. Plus, do I need the keyboard? Once I map everything out to the joystick, because my joystick does work on a PC, is that fine? Or am I always going to need this fucking keyboard for something? Or will the mouse do everything? Right? Like, I don't know. What a dumbass. What a fucking dumbass. See, now we got someone in chat who's literally said, every time you play a match, someone has your IP. Guys, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that on FIghtcade, that every time you play someone, they immediately get your IP address?
Yes. That's how peer-to-peer works, Phil. Like that. Same thing happens in Helldivers. Same thing happens in Street Fighter 6. Same thing happens in Elden Ring. Right? It's a peer-to-peer network. That is how it functions. Right? Like, remember, Phil will state here shortly that he did a Google search. None of this actually came up. Well, yeah, it actually does. So this is the FIghtcade, about FIghtcade and secured IP. So when you're in chat, so right now, like we're in chat, right? Right now, it's just going to show you the company of where you're located. The country where you're located, not company. Sorry, my bad. Right, so I have mine set to Seattle, even though I live in Canada. So it's showing me as in the United States, and it tells me that he's using a VPN, right? It's not a low-quality connection, because I've played FIghtcade with a VPN without any lag whatsoever. And we'll show that here shortly. So basically, that is a lie, right? That what like Phil doesn't know what he's talking about. So when you're in the menu, when you're in chat, nobody has your IP address. So when you connect to a fight, though, so when you challenge somebody or somebody challenges you and you accept, you either connect to them or they have to connect to you as a guest, or vice versa. Your IP address is given then, right? That's how you communicate. Think of it like a phone number. Like when I call my brother, right? I have to have a phone number. I have to use his phone number to call, and then we connect and we talk, right? That is an IP address. That's essentially an IP address. It's your digital footprint online, right? Even when you're browsing the internet, like you're browsing Darish is on Twitter, your IP address is getting exchanged, right? Darish is on Twitter tweeting out at porn stars. Your IP address is communicating with that website, right? When you're ordering pizza online, your IP address is communicating with that website. And then they'll have location services. So the location service can actually tell that company where you are. That is how an IP address works. Now, if you want to mask your IP address and you want to hide where you're at, then you would use a VPN, right? And we'll get into that here shortly.
Do you think anyone would actually use FIghtcade if it immediately doxed your IP address? Seriously, don't you think that would be...
I honestly I don't understand what Phil complains about doxing, because Phil himself, like, Phil always says that the detractors doxed him, right? That's not entirely true. Phil doxed himself, right? Like, Phil did that to himself, right? Phil put Burnell Productions out there. He registered it publicly. Guess he's removed it now. But that was Phil's thing, right? Phil used to hand out business cards with his name, his address, his phone number, his email address, and his YouTube channels on, right? And that has been going on since he lived in Connecticut, since he started his channel. So it's impossible to say that detractors dox you when you doxed yourself. Remember, Phil, during the hacking, you released all this information, IP addresses and MAC IDs, even though it was all lies and you were just doing it for pity bucks. But you actually leaked all that information yourself, so we wouldn't do that. And even to this point, anytime you play Street Fighter 6, you're in the same boat as you would have been if you're playing on FIghtcade.
A slight liability for the people who made it and for the people who use it at every single moment, right?
He's checking chat here because people are telling him, yes, that's how the internet works. And Phil's just sitting here and he's just trying to think of any excuse to prove them wrong.
Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. People are just, I don't know. People are just crazy, right? Anyway, so I don't know. I know everyone's saying VPN. That doesn't work. When you do a VPN, it adds lag. What are you talking? Boy, you have no idea how a VPN works, do you?
Okay, so let's look at this. So I've recorded a bunch of videos for games here. Just a test. First thing we're going to look at is, yes, I have contacted Capcom, Bandai Namco, NetherRealm Studios, and SNK Corporation. Because I wanted to know, do their systems operate on a peer-to-peer network? Okay? And sure enough, yes, they do. So Capcom got back to me. In regards with your inquiry, as part of our specification, Street Fighter 6 requires a P2P connection for matching. So again, that is basically identical to what FIghtcade uses, right? That means that FIghtcade itself is going to connect through a VPN, right? Or it's going to connect to peer-to-peer. Your IP address is going to be exchanged with your opponent, and they can gain access to you, right? That's the risk you have to take when you're playing games online, especially, well, the majority, right? First-person shooters are a little bit different, as well as MMOs, and we'll get into that here. We're going to take a look at it. So let's take a look at a video here. So this is a VPN, FIghtcade VPN off, right?
Welcome to the world of Street Fighter 3. Prepare for
So this is me here playing Street Fighter 6, or playing Street Fighter Third Strike without a VPN, right? And we'll see if there's any lag whatsoever. So as you can see, it is very smooth, right? I don't have any issues whatsoever in playing the game. I'm not having any dropped inputs. The game is working and functioning properly for me, right? This is with the VPN off, okay? So now what we'll do is just fast forward through this video here, because I play a couple sets against this guy. It was a good match. And good game, bro. Thanks for the match. Okay. So that is with the VPN off. You can see here, right, on the right-hand side, you can see that the VPN itself is disabled. I am not connected to anywheres in the world. Maybe on the moon, Phil, if that's possible. So we know currently it is not connected. So let's go to a connection. So this is with the VPN on. You can see I'm connected to Seattle. And let's see if there's any latency whatsoever within game. I think this guy was trying to get Akuma, but he did it wrong. So as you can see, again, there is no lag whatsoever in the game. Functions perfectly. This is with the VPN on, connected to Seattle. So right now my IP is masked. If somebody wanted to get my IP, they couldn't, right? It's going to show them in Seattle. It's going to show me in Seattle, give me like an IP address of like 184 or 179 or something like that, depending on the ISP. And as you can see, it runs perfectly fine. There's no issue whatsoever. There's no lag, there's no dropped inputs. Everything is perfect. So let's look at another game. Let's look at Call of Duty. Let's look at it with VPN off. Now, Call of Duty is a little bit more difficult to gauge performance on. The reason being is you won't always connect to the same server. It's basically going to search. Like right now, it's searching for a match, right? So I am in the North America region, so it can pick up servers from all over. There's actually multiple servers. Let's bring this up here while this video loads. So these are the server locations for both Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, all over North America. So at any point, I can be connecting to any of these hubs to play Call of Duty. So one match I might end up in Portland, but the next match I could end up in Chicago, and the next match I could end up in Miami. It's going to depend on where it's searching and where it's available. Now, I can also adjust that, and we'll get into that here shortly. We'll actually look at a VPN that does this, which is this one right here. Now, this is Sweat VPN. See what the match is like here. Keep an eye out, top left-hand corner, you'll see my ping. So right now, I'm probably connected to a Portland server, is my guess. Now, it's 39 milliseconds, right? And remember, on the right-hand side here, we have that text for the actual frames. Now, as you can see, there's no lag. Inputs are excellent, right? I'm not having any issues with dropped inputs or anything with them shooting or moving. Everything works great. There's no issue with latency here. 39 milliseconds is great. Okay, now let's look with Call of Duty with it on. Now, right now, you can see I'm connected to Los Angeles. That is where my VPN is connected. We do know that there is a main hub for Call of Duty in Los Angeles.
For those who contributed, thank you. It would be great if we get a few more tips to make up. Earlier today, we did not hit the hat goal either. It's been a very slow.
I've got a ping of 56 milliseconds. Now, again, this is with the VPN on, right? As you can see, there is no latency whatsoever. Game is functioning great. Not having any problems. Actually, I'm pretty much just waiting for the match to restart. There we go. No latency issues. Everything is working perfectly fine. And we win the round. So perfect. There's no issue with latency whatsoever. It's 55 milliseconds. More than likely, I am probably connected to the Los Angeles server for this latency. Now, let's look at Street Fighter. Let's look at FIghtcade. Actually, let's look at Street Fighter 6. Plus, I got a Norway test in here for everybody that asks. So this is with the VPN off, right? Or VPN on. So we're connected to Seattle, right? That's where Phil's connected at. I've got both ranked and casual matches selected. I'm going to fight a DJ. Let's look at the ping, 69. All right, nice. Right? And we've seen Phil ping this high without issue, right? Phil will complain that it's laggy. Yeah, no, that's not how it's going to work. Now, this not necessarily means that I am connecting to somebody that's in Seattle. This person can probably be anywhere within the world. I don't know, right? But right now, I am what's called the host. Okay, I am hosting this match because I am player one, and this person is connecting to me. So our IP addresses are being exchanged. But if this guy wanted to, he would get his IP address for in Seattle, right? He wouldn't get an IP address for Edmonton, Alberta. And I get my ass kicked. All right, so that's Street Fighter 6 with it on. Let's take a look at Street Fighter 6 with it off. Right now, you can tell I'm not connected to any VPN server at all in the world. My IP would be in Edmonton, Alberta. And again, ping is around 63 milliseconds. This is with it off, okay? So, like, margin of error, basically, is where what we're looking at right here, right? So even with it off, I'm still pinging relatively the same. So, again, this is going to depend on where you're... I'm the host of this. This person could be anywhere within North America. I don't know, right? Because I'm not going to try and get their IP address. Like, I'm not an idiot. I don't want to do anything illegal. End up in jail or whatever for stealing somebody's identity using their IP. I'm not going to do that. But again, like 62, 61 milliseconds. So realistically, has it impacted my latency? No. Now let's look at World of Warcraft. Okay, so this is with a VPN off. Watch the bottom right-hand corner of the World of Warcraft screen. Right here, you can see on the right-hand side, I am not connected to any... we're not connected to any VPN point whatsoever. But keep taking like so we saw that there, 73, 74 milliseconds, right? That is with a VPN off. Okay? Now, my server is what's called, server name is Tyrannus. Now, Tyrannus is actually located in Los Angeles. Okay? So here we can see here, 74, home, world, 79. Okay, so that's my IP, that's my ping, that's my latency. Now let's look with it on. You're going to be very surprised here. Connected to Los Angeles on the right-hand side, you can see that, right? Now again, take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, where the question mark is here.
Now, what does the sugar do in the sauce?
Adds sweetness, adds a contrast. If you don't, it's all going to be tartness, and you won't have any
It's
kind
going to
of
be acidity from
sweetness to the sauce.
tomatoes.
Right, you'll have
and then
tart,
spice.
tart and its acid and nothing else.
I'm pinging 62.
So now we got to stir all that.
So I'm pinging 12 to 15 milliseconds lower with a VPN on connected to Los Angeles. So I'm actually connecting at a lower latency, which is far better. Strange, huh, right? Phil said the exact opposite, that it would increase latency. In fact, it does not. So we know, does a VPN... Can a VPN increase your latency? Yes, if configured incorrectly, it can decrease your latency. Or it can increase your latency. But if set up correctly, you can actually decrease your latency. So Phil's option, if Phil was using a VPN, I would just always set it to Seattle. Right? Phil lives in a suburb of Seattle, Renton, Washington. Phil would be connecting to Seattle. More than likely, Phil probably routes through the Seattle location anyways when he's connecting online because he's on Comcast. This is hosted by Comcast at the server farm. So Phil would probably not see anything, or lower, depending on what game he's playing or who he's connecting to. You can get a lower input latency, or lower latency altogether. That's great.
Use a VPN. That's not how VPNs work, genius. VPNs reroute you through another location of the planet, adding insane amounts of lag. Then you're going to play an online game? Are you stupid?
Okay, so let's take a look at what would happen if I connected to Norway. Now, you wouldn't do this, right? Like, if I lived in North America, if I lived in Seattle, I wouldn't connect to a Norwegian server, right? I would only be connecting to a Norwegian server if I was playing, if I wanted to watch, like, Norwegian Netflix, right? I'm not going to play games in Norway. Although we had, like, DJ Runo was playing first-person shooters with us, and DJ Runo would be, like, paying, like, 200. But he would still be holding his own. He wouldn't have any packet loss whatsoever. So this is what happens if you connect in Norway. You can already tell it's lagging, right, as it's loading up. 509 milliseconds. And it's slow, right? You can see how slow it's going. No, I'm not adjusting video speed. This is what it was like. And I bodied this guy too. So yeah, like realistically, you wouldn't connect to Norway, right? There would just be no reason for you to do that. If you're in North America, you're either going to want, if you're playing World of Warcraft, you know which server you're attaching to. You're either going to connect to Chicago or you're going to connect to Los Angeles. As you can see, it lowered my latency by about 15 to 17 milliseconds. If you're playing first-person shooters and you're connecting to a central server, again, find out where that central server is located and play on there, right? Connect to the closest as possible. Otherwise, just set it to the closest where you live. If you live in Seattle, set your VPN to Seattle, right? It's going to change your IP address. It's not going to be the IP address of your modem. It's not going to have that, right? For me, when I'm playing World of Warcraft, I set it to Los Angeles, right? If I'm playing Call of Duty, typically, sometimes I'll probably have in Denver or Kansas City. That's kind of central to where everything is, right? And then it's going to route through there, right? And that's going to be the best scenario for you for your VPN.
Boy. So anyway, I don't know. This was this. Bono Techno says the chat client does not have your IP address. Others cannot find it through the chat client. The lobby only knows your country, but when you play a game, they get your IP address. What? You know? Okay. All right. This is so ridiculous. Do you not understand the legal liability that a company would have if every time that you used something, it gave away your IP address?
That's why they have end user license agreements, Phil. You chose on FIghtcade's site, they explain this. They explain the security issues that can arise, but that goes for any game that uses peer-to-peer. Let it be Street Fighter 6, FIghtcade, or Helldivers 2. All those, anybody can get your IP address. You have to have an IP address in order to connect to online services. That, you hear, this is why you flunked out of CST at Fairfield University College, or Fairfield University. You had no idea what you were getting into when you went into IT. And then what happened? You flunked out and you ended up in finance. And now what are you? Bankrupt, begging for money every day on stream.
Do you not understand that? Oh my god, the common intelligence level of the common gamer. Oh my god. So either you're telling me people just don't care and they're so idiotically stupid that they would actively use this fighting game client to play the game and literally open themselves up to doxing and DDoS attacks and trolling. And this is...
But you get that in Street Fighter 6 as well, Phil. Remember what I said? Any fighting game that's currently being played, Helldivers 2, Elden Ring, those all use peer-to-peer.
Has been like this for 15 years, all right? Or you're wrong. So which is it? Do we have a ginormous legal liability, in which case someone could sue the fuck out of the company that made FIghtcade because they're constantly giving away people's IP addresses without telling them? Or are you wrong? Which is it? Oh my god, sometimes I'm so stupid. I'd like to know. I'd like the honest answer. Maybe you're right. And then...
So you remember, Phil knew about this back at Christmas time when he originally was going to play FIghtcade. This had already come up, right? He knew what he was getting into. And now he's going to use this as the excuse. Before it was too hard. Now there's security issues because he's Phil Burnell. But he'll play Street Fighter 6 and Helldivers 2 that use the exact same peer-to-peer setup that FIghtcade does without issue.
This company will just get sued. This is literally like playing a peer-to-peer game via an emulator. This is how it works. I play this with the Tecmo community. So seriously, how would anyone who is a known player who stream, okay, how would you use it? So you tell me I can't use it. You tell me...
One, they just use it because they're not going to get hacked, and two, they use a VPN. So they don't get hacked. Those are your options, Phil. Right? Neither one is going to cause issues. Now, again, like with FIghtcade, yes, there is a VPN. There is an option where it'll show that you are using a VPN. I really wish that this would stop within the communities now because, yes, back in the day when VPNs were first new and fighting games were going online, yes, it wasn't a good idea. Now, it can lower your IP, right? And we can actually look, since we're discussing VPN, let's look at some of the actual VPNs that are currently available, right? Now let's look here. This is one. Helldivers 2 also uses peer-to-peer networking model. Confirmed, right? So we know that Helldivers 2 uses peer-to-peer. That's the exact same thing that FIghtcade uses. Okay, so let's look at some VPNs. So I use NordVPN. Currently it's 69% off. Nice. Right? And I like NordVPN because of the extra security features that NordVPN has, right? They will have things like web protection, file protection, and vulnerability detection. Plus, they have the dark web leaks, right? So if there's anything that's been leaked on the dark web, they will notify you on what's being leaked. Now, Nord had a huge data leak back about 3 years ago, was it? 4 years ago? Before I used NordVPN. And anybody can get data leaks, right? We've seen that happen from Microsoft, Apple, right? The fappening, right? Things like that. Everybody can have that issue occur. So don't take that out on Nord. Since then, everything has been very, very good. The other one that you can use is what's called ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN, just like Nord, offers you all those security features similar to what Nord offers, right? It's just going to come down to price and what you want to try, right? So those are your two major ones, Nord and ExpressVPN. Now, if you're a gamer, WT Fast, now it's not really a VPN, like you see here. It's not a VPN. Like it doesn't mask your IP address, but if you know how, you can actually mask your IP address through it. What WT Fast does is, let's say I'm up here, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, right? And I'm going to connect down to Los Angeles. Now, going through here, I may go through Edmonton. I'll probably go through Red Deer Hub, Calgary, probably like Lloydminster or something like that, right? And then wherever, how many hops I'm going to go through here. So I think it's like 10 hops to get to the Los Angeles server and then back. What WT Fast will do is they may have a shorter route. Instead of doing 10 hops to get to the server and then back, they may only do 6, which in turn lowers my latency. This is the benefit of WT Fast, and it does work, right? I've used it for both Call of Duty and World of Warcraft, and yes, it has lowered my latency, right? Upwards of around 25 milliseconds, which is awesome, right? This is another option that you can go through. WT Fast actually works. They actually have their own routers that you can buy from them. Now, the last VPN is what's called Sweat VPN. The main purpose of Sweat VPN is, yes, 1 is to lower your latency, 2 is to mask your IP address, 3 is used for cheating in Call of Duty. Now, what I mean by cheating is a lot of the main streamers, like I would say roughly 90% of the big streamers out there for Call of Duty probably cheat in some way or another. You have people like in the FaZe Clan. The FaZe Clan loves using VPNs, right? Because they can up their KD, right? So what they'll do is they'll connect down here, right? They'll be like, okay, I want to connect to Argentina. Hey, Detractor's favorite country. In like these countries here, you're going to get servers that have like a 0.2 KD, which is just shit, right? Or 0.6 KD, which is just garbage, right? These guys will connect down to here, they'll set their VPN, and then they'll start scanning for servers and looking for a low KD lobby. That way they can go in and they can body people in those lobbies, right? People that don't have meta outloads or meta loadouts, shit like that, right? That's what they're looking for. This is what's used in Warzone 3 for a lot of the COD community to cheat. The other thing is it comes with an aim booster, which is basically just an aimbot, right? That's what this is. This is the cheater's VPN. So these are like your 4 VPN that are currently used, probably widely used within the gaming community.
Tell me I can't use FIghtcade, I'm done. Because all it's going to take is one troll, right, to join a match to play me, and they have my IP address.
The coach's like, fucking shit, fuck this guy, piece of fucking shit, hate this fucking team, I hate these fucking players.
And remember, Phil's doxed people as well with their IP, right? Right? Oh, and for your information, I have your address, I have your name, and I have your IP, right? Everybody remembers that.
I hate my fucking life, I'm going home,
And that's point of advice. Don't go to kingofhate.com unless you're behind a VPN. Kingofhate.com, Phil's website, logs your IP address.
drinking a whole thing of fucking Jack the
And then they're just going to fucking post it all over the internet, and then the people are going to DDoS attack me constantly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is 10 years of people.
See, we tried to DDoS attack him during the hacking of 2023 after he leaked all that information, and none of it worked. Go figure.
People telling me to play on FIghtcade. And now, the day when I'm going to do it, now you people tell me in chat that this is what happens. You waited this long to tell me.
It's not my fault, I literally...
And now he's going to blame his viewers for not telling them, even though, if you go back to the video at Christmas time, he knew about it.
did nothing wrong and violated 0 rules.
No, trolls cannot IP grab you off any game. If they did, they would have fucking doxed me 5 zillion times over the years, so you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's just stupidity saying that. I just want you guys to put yourself into my situation. Really. Just do this for a second, all right? And I want you to, because I think, sadly, most people do not. They hold you accountable, and they treat me like shit, and I just want you to listen to me for a second rationally. For over 10 years, I've exclusively played fighting games on console. And every time that I've done this, I've never had an issue, any kind of security whatsoever, because consoles secure all your information. No,
they don't. Phil, like, consoles secure all your... No, they don't. Phil, you have to... When you're playing on console, it doesn't matter if you're playing on console or PC. I can get your IP address easily. On a PC, I could either use Wireshark, and I'm not going to explain on how to do it. I'll just state what it is. Wireshark, or I'll just use my modem. My modem/router to get your IP address. You have to connect to me. If we're going to play a fighting game, you're going to connect to me. I'm being the host, and I'm connecting to you. We're going to be exchanging IP address information. That information is then going to be available, right? Either through port sniffing, packet sniffing, or through log information. it's going to tell me exactly what the IP address is. And this has been since the day gaming happened online. Your IP address is available. Hell, back in the day, GameSpy, right? You guys remember GameSpy? Shout out GameSpy. That was the best fucking program ever. When I wanted to play Quake, I would load up I would check servers. It would have an IP address for that server there. I could then change it by latency so I can get the lowest latency servers that I can find. And then I would just double click on it, launch Quake. There, I'm online playing Quake. The IP address was fully visible of that server. Anybody at that time could have DDoS attacked it. It doesn't happen. Phil getting DDoS attacked back in the day, again, there's actually no proof that he was DDoS'd. It's just Phil's word that he was DDoS'd. And we all know how bad Phil's internet is, right? We know for a fact that last week, Phil was talking about Kat downloading a 116 gigabit file, okay? It took Kat 3 hours, which means that that connection, she only has 100 megabits connection on that secondary line. That's it. That's the line downstairs is a 100 megabit download, right? And now, I know I've said in the past that Phil was on a 310. He was. I think he was upgraded back in October when he renewed his contract. I think Phil is either on 320 or 520 now. And that is where his main line is. And we know his main line upstairs has issues. Phil has to have a booster on his coax upstairs to boost the signal because the wiring in the house or in the condo is very, very bad, right? We were able to, when Phil was downloading games during stream, he's done it a couple times when he's doing the podcast. When Phil's doing that, you can actually calculate how long it takes from the point he starts it to the point he ends it. Depending on how large the file is, you can calculate. That's where we calculated around 300 megabits per second. That's Phil's top out. Since October, I have a feeling he's had to have upgraded it, or Comcast forced him to upgrade it, right? But again, he has two business lines. One for sure is 100 megabits down. The other one is either 300 or 500, and about 20 megabits up.
No one's going to get your IP address from playing a fighting game on a console, ever. But because of that, I've had to put up lag and inferior versions of these games. I have. And we can all agree that the console versions, classic fighting games, are not up to snuff with the real versions. They've all had issues with lag, or like I said, with the Capcom Classics collection.
Phil, every game that you ever played online has lag. You complain. You're one of the worst complainers on the face of this planet when it comes to lag. You have even said, here, I'm going to play this video. This is from 2 Fridays ago, okay? Now remember that on the right-hand side, you see this, right? This reaction time and everything like that. Listen to this video.
Drop my input 90% of the time. Oh, look, 18 milliseconds. That means it's going to drop the next 18 inputs in a row instead of fucking let you play your game.
Wow. Right? So an 18 millisecond lag, which is excellent. That is an awesome latency. Phil is stating that each millisecond is an input. Now remember, right? We can look at this here on the right-hand side. Visual stimulus reaction time, 250 milliseconds. That's the average human reaction time. 1 frame equals 16 milliseconds. That means that Phil is inputting 18 frames within 18 inputs within 1 frame. That's not how that works, Phil. You're 100% incorrect. And this is coming from a tech, right? What you look at is Street Fighter 6 has what? About 57 milliseconds of input latency itself, okay? Now when you're online, you have your rollback, right? You have your rollback frames. Most of the time with Phil's, we're seeing 0 to 1 rollback, right? And that means that it's just rolling back 1 frame out of 60, right? The game is capped at 60 frames per second. So visually, you don't see the rollback whatsoever. You don't see the dropped inputs. That's not to say that there are dropped inputs, because there are. Phil just overinflates it because Phil isn't very good at Street Fighter 6, right? Phil is at a 50.19% currently in Street Fighter 6 in Phase 3. He refuses to play rank, so we have to go off his casuals. He's probably dropped now below 50%, which means he's now entered scrub territory. Phil isn't very good at Street Fighter 6. Phil is slightly below average now. Once he reaches like the lower 40s, I'm going to say that's scrub territory. Phil's a scrub player. He's pretty bad at Street Fighter 6.
Literally no moderation options whatsoever. Pretty bad, right? In that regard, you get the inferior version, but at least you're safe, correct? It's been 10 years.
That's incorrect. If you're on console or if you're on PC, Phil, they can get your IP address.
Everyone yelled at me, I'm doing the wrong thing. Everyone uses FIghtcade. Why don't you just use FIghtcade? You're such an idiot. You're such a dumbass. You're such a loser. You don't do what everyone else does. You're not playing the best players because you're not using FIghtcade. You should be using FIghtcade. A racist, a scam artist.
But you should be. Like, FIghtcade is where all the tournaments are played at, right? So all those OGs, like people like Justin Wong, Jaha, Viscant, Valle, LTG, if they're going to play those old school fighters, they're going to be playing on FIghtcade, right? Not to say LTG is not no champ. LTG is a fucking bum. But, like, everybody plays on there. Even that idiot Arturo Sanchez, you know, your friend that you consider that scammed a whole bunch of people in FGC, and now FGC OS is dead. The Discord's been taken down. He was sued by Kev and is now paying Kev whatever amount of money per month to pay him back the $3,000 that he scammed out of him. You know, that's where all these guys play, Phil. They all play on FIghtcade, and not one of them, Arturo Sanchez included, none of them are getting hacked, right? None of them are getting IP leaked or anything like that. That's not to say that there are people out there that are going to do that, but that's where the VPN comes in, and we have shown that the VPN can lower your latency.
A thief, a scumbag, and he's going to play your game for money. So now here we are, 10 years later, and I'm ready. I've been waiting. I got the time set around. Let's do it. So let's get to the fun, right? That's what we're all here for, right? Oh, by the way, that exposes your IP address. Oh, you had to wait 10 years to fucking tell me that? Seriously, now I'm fucking pissed. I'm legit and very rightly pissed. Oh. That you had to wait to the day that I scheduled it. Because everyone asked me for it.
Phil, let's get this straight. Phil knew about this prior, okay? Phil can say all he wants that he didn't know. He knew, okay? He knew back in December when he was first supposed to play FIghtcade. He knew all about this. Has Phil played FIghtcade before? I would venture a guess, yes, he has, right? I'm 100% sure he has. And he probably got bodied, and that's why he doesn't want to play it. Phil has come up with so many excuses that it is too difficult to set up, that it's not secure, that the trolling would be over the top, right? The real reason Phil doesn't want to play FIghtcade is simple. He's going to get his ass kicked in whatever game he plays, right? And then there's going to be the excuse that these are PC cheaters, that it's lagging, blah, blah, blah. If he has an internet issue, the next internet issue that he has, he will then end up stating that he was DDoS because it was leaked on FIghtcade. So let's just rehash this. Every current fighting game out there, Mortal Kombat 1, Tekken 8, Guilty Gear, King of Fighters, or Street Fighter 6, all use the same peer-to-peer method that FIghtcade uses, okay? That is, they have to exchange IP information, okay? Also, Helldivers 2, Elden Ring, if you choose to bring somebody in to help you with a boss or whatever, that uses a peer-to-peer connection, okay? Some first-person shooters, depending on their infrastructure, still use peer-to-peer. A lot of games use peer-to-peer. That's how it's played, okay? Are there security measures in place? Yes, there are. You have things like your firewall. You have things like your VPN, right? You can get a VPN. We have proven that a VPN can lower your latency. World of Warcraft, we lowered it by almost 20 milliseconds by simply just making sure that I was connected to the VPN in the city that the server is located in. That's your option. Phil lives in a city that was one of the major hubs for both Nord and ExpressVPN, hosted by the ISP that he's on. So a VPN would not increase his latency whatsoever. So was there any truth to what Phil said? Yes, you can. Your IP address is exposed, but FIghtcade isn't the only program out there that does it. That's pretty much any gaming platform that you go on now. Let it be either console or PC. Yes, people can snake your IP address. That's a given, right? You can secure it by using a VPN. So Phil's refusal to play FIghtcade and then immediately go into Helldivers and Street Fighter 6, again, at any point, any detractor, anybody out there that wanted to play Phil online that knew how to do it can easily get his IP address through playing him in Street Fighter 6 or Helldivers 2. It doesn't matter, right? So I think we're going to bring us to an end here. I've rambled on enough. I've proven that Phil is incorrect, that realistically using a VPN, using FIghtcade is perfectly safe. I haven't been hacked, even though I played FIghtcade here recently without a VPN on, and I'm sitting here just fine. All right, so if you've liked the video, please hit like. Please subscribe to the channel if you liked this content. I will be doing a lot more in the future now that I have some time here. I want to do the 4K video next, debunking Phil's claim about 4K on consoles and stuff like that, and with the PS5 Pro that's rumored to be coming out here shortly, we're going to do that video. I want to do the Wi-Fi video to show you guys how to set up your Wi-Fi correctly so it's just as stable as playing on wired. And then, of course, Prophet OS. So join me on FIghtcade, guys. If you see me on there, awesome. We'll play. I'll snake your IP address, leak it online, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.